The dramatic year 2021 ends with the talk of war, a big war, and the invasion of Russian troops on the territory of Ukraine. The speed of which that could not have been imagined yesterday becomes possible today. For example, yesterday it was possible to be photographed in a swimsuit without looking around. Now you never know if there's something behind. But now Vladimir Putin has announced a course for healthy conservatism, and now, if you don't look around, you can inadvertently get detention. The same story with the war. Yesterday they spoke about it in whispers and shrugged their shoulders. Well, Vladimir Putin announced that it was right to keep the West in suspense, to threaten it with a war. And now some officials are joking that in difficult times, Russians all as one run to the military enlistment office. On television, they tell about Ukrainian spies and terrorists who are caught by the FSB. Press secretary scares with the war. They say Kiev is about to start. And foreign ministry insists that half of the Ukrainian army is stretched to Donetsk and Lugansk, although there is no confirmation of this. Complete nonsense. If indeed 125,000 Ukrainian soldiers were sent to Donbass, I think that the whole of Ukraine, where there is a free information space and a lot of opposition media, the most of them are oppositional, unlike Russia, where all oppositional press is persuaded, and all the last month they would have talked only about big army go to Donbass. With the light hand of Vladimir Putin, the war has already become mainstream in the ranks of Russian authorities, and those nerves that are keeping the whole world in suspense are no longer taboo. Will there be a war or not depends on whether it will be possible to agree on compliance with Russian interests. This is a direct threat. The tension is growing. Russia's war with Ukraine is the main plot of international politics today. The European Union gives Kiev money to strengthen the country's defense capability. NATO countries are discussing how to stop Russian aggression. Stockholm meets the head of the State Department Blinken and the head of Foreign Ministry Lavrov. The topic of negotiation is the preparation of an online meeting between Putin and Biden. But the number one question is clear and obvious: in the event of invasion, Russia will pay a very high price, Blinken says. Moscow has been scared of sanctions. What sanctions will be is pretty obvious. The US Senate already has amendments that in case of war, all leading Russian financial institutions will bring Nord Stream 2 under sanctions. Also, all leading financial institutions and operations with public debt. In general, this is an Iranian scenario. This is practically no doubt that Russia will be disconnected from the SWIFT interbank system, and it will impose serious restrictions on doing business with all Russian counterparties. But the Kremlin and Lavrov are not afraid of sanctions. And the most important, the most recent thought is first Putin says it, then Lavrov repeats it, then Putin's foreign policy assistant repeats it. Moscow requires guarantees of no expansion of NATO to the east. This is formulated very clearly. Not general words from NATO, not sloppy policy when Ukraine and Georgia promised not to give up promises sometime in the future. Moscow requires guarantees written on paper and wants Ukraine and Georgia never to become members of NATO. Never. Actually, this is what Blinken and Lavrov are discussing among themselves. This is what Putin and Biden will discuss. And Russia already has an answer to this demand. NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg says, Russia has no right to establish spheres of influence. There is no right to not allow the entry into NATO of other sovereign countries. This is a NATO matter, and those countries that want to join. However, Lavrov has already replied to him. You are playing with fire. Moscow is already writing a paper about not expanding NATO and military infrastructure. Let NATO review it. If they are not reviewing it, they're just making it worse for them, turning Ukraine into a springboard of confrontation with Russia. Lavrov continues, and blame yourself, sign legally binding security guarantees. I quote Lavrov. This is an imperative condition for preventing a slide in confrontation scenario. Biden, NATO, and other European leaders have been presented with an ultimatum. Press the like button, subscribe for more, and donate to the development of the channel. Link down below. This was Alex Gray, and goodbye.